One of the concern about Belt and Road, as I see it, is that Belt and Road is not like other form of multilateral mechanism like the World Bank or the IMF. We have a very structured, very clear rule and so on.
Are you not concerned about one day Cambodia might become the Sri Lanka port or the Zimbabwe electric company, something like that, which hand over to China because of that?
If we do our homework properly, we have no reason to be concerned. We need to assess properly this benefit.
Do you think Cambodian government today is smart enough to play this role to take advantage from the kind of project?
I have confidence that the current government is mindful of that.
Excellency Sothirak, Executive Directors of the CICP. Today you have hosting a very interesting conference. What is it about? Why is it important to Cambodia?
Well, first, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, Khmer time. The purpose of this conference, first, the conference is under the theme of whether the Indo-Pacific strategy, the changing security landscape in the Asia-Pacific region. And the main purpose of this conference is to bring to this part of the world, particularly for the Cambodian audience, a relevant and very trendy, timely topic. Because there is currently the security landscape in the global context have changed dramatically. And partly because of there is a competition, big power competition, superpower, particularly between China and USA. But not only between these two, there is also regional power like Japan, Australia, major power, India, Russia, to name a few, and also ASEAN to that context have also worry about this trend, this changing security trend. And therefore it is important for Cambodia to have a better understanding of what have transpired at the global issues. And so we today, for example, the conference is divided into 4 distinctive sessions. The first session we will cover about the security mega trend. What is a major flashpoint that we need to be aware of that is happening now in this part of the world. The second session deal with how major power exert their influences in this region. And the third session will be reserved for discussions on what is ASEAN is thinking about this major power competition. So we have, for example, we have speaker from Vietnam and Indonesia to speak about these issues. And the last session, which is session number 4, is concentrating what is it this Indo-Pacific strategy is all about. And there I have invited 5 important speakers representing USA, Australia, India, and China, and also Japan to come and speak about their view. So this is a purpose, is to bring relevant security development that is happening in the region to Cambodia.
What do you expect from the outcome from the conference?
Well, my hope is that we would like to have a clearer understanding, because even among ASEAN, we don't really understand very well what this Indo-Pacific strategy is all about. So the first objective is to bring about more clarity, because when major power or big power like America make a move, and there's so many things that we don't understand the dynamic behind
Right.
this movement, may lead into a speculation that it could even provoke further tension and it could even deepen
Right.
more conflicts in the region. And therefore, the first objective is to get a clearer understanding. The second objective of this conference is to also debate will this Indo-Pacific strategy bring about more peace and stability for the region, or it will even deepen already the tension that it is now play out, particularly if you know about the trade war between China and
Right.
and USA.
And USA.
So we try to also analyze what is the future if Indo-Pacific strategy takes shape and form.
Right.
Yes.
So after the everybody clear on what's going on the world, a particular Cambodian government would take part as the lawmaker, as the decision maker, will take this result of the conference and consider what step that they're going to be taken.
Well,
in the future, isn't it?
well, yeah. Remember that Cambodia is one of the member of the ASEAN country,
Right.
And therefore anything happen at the regional level, it is beneficial for Cambodia to know.
Right.
And so there will be an outcome report, and as you can see, there's quite a few officials from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from Ministry of Defense. I invite a few of them come, and many diplomats here are attending this conference.
Right.
And also university students who study international relations
Right.
come, and a few think tanks also come. So it is important that they engage in this process of knowing what is happening. If we don't know what happened
Right.
in our neighborhood, it become a liability to us. And I hope that the outcome report, or after the conference is over, we will produce this outcome report, and this outcome report can be sent to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs,
Right.
and for them to view, because Cambodia is part of ASEAN, and
Right.
ASEAN need to take a position, if any,
Right.
with regard to the Indo-Pacific strategy.
Did you see that ASEAN got any threat so far?
Well, ASEAN have many threats. I mean, one of the eminent and still persisting threat to ASEAN is the South China Sea issues.
Right.
But I have to say there has been good progress, hopeful progress, that the process of having the COC, the Code of Conduct,
Right.
will materialize in the future. But the draft framework has been agreed upon between China and ASEAN, and they're going
Right.
to add more value to this draft agreement, and the negotiation process, to my understanding, start happening now.
Right.
And therefore, if we can have this code of conduct,
Right.
ASEAN can hope for to have some kind of mechanism to appease tension
Right.
in South China Sea, and use it as a way to manage this tension and to prevent conflict from happening.
Right.
So ASEAN still have challenge in South China Sea, but also another I think strong challenge to ASEAN is the issues happening in Burma, the Rohingya, the issues that happening in the Rakhine State,
Right.
that we call a humanitarian crisis. You know, a large population of the Rohingya have fled,
Right.
and then there has been report of violence and so on.
It's 1.5 million, right? Rohingya.
Oh
The
yes,
number of
yes. So
If they don't have home to live, where they
where they go. That's right. And
That's
then and this is is no longer, in my view, a domestic issues between the government of Myanmar, but it can be a real issues in the region,
Right.
will affect the peace and stability of the
Right.
region.
What is the role of Cambodia in the South China Sea issue?
Well,
been criticized sometime in 2012 on that.
well, it's always, but you have to see all angle. I mean, what happened in 2012? There was no joint communique, and there's a lot of debate that this because Cambodia take a position which is somewhat very close to China, but there's an argument which worth thinking, and that is to say, according to Cambodian thinking, ASEAN should be neutral.
Right.
And in the case that happened in the South China Sea, particularly after 2012 and
Right.
2016, you know, the case between Philippines and China, Philippines took China to the court arbitrations. So Cambodia hold the view that this matter is between two conflicting parties, and ASEAN should not take a position,
Right.
and therefore we should.
Bilateral couple of things.
Yeah, that's right. We should be neutral.
Right.
So neutral meaning we should not make any comment about it.
Right.
And this is not very well taken by other, because the argument is said that this is a common interest. This is an interest of ASEAN.
Of ASEAN, the whole.
Peace and security
Right.
of the regions at stake.
Right.
So not take a position may not. So the debate still continue today.
Right.
So, but I think each country have their own thinking about how to solve these issues. But
Right.
there's a lot of improvement, I think, with regard to the South China Sea issues, because, as I mentioned, the momentum now have shifted.
Right.
And it seems that ASEAN and China have now moving in the right direction and trying to bring about a more acceptable, more equitable, and more effective code of conduct.
The ASEAN 51 years already and pretty safe and prosper, right? Do you think? And what about the next 50 years more that the ASEAN is going to be if the China's the One Belt and Road Initiative success and the Indo-Pacific's whatever is conflicting with the China's initiative, is that will ASEAN, you see the ASEAN going to be continue to be peaceful and prosperity, or ASEAN somehow fell into a war or conflict or something?
Well, first, I like to mention that we have to give credit to ASEAN in keeping over their 51 years of existence, keeping this region away from major conflicts. I'm talking about outbreak of war or something. There's never been war. So over 51 years of ASEAN existence, there is a peace dividend. This region enjoy peace. When you have peace, you can see prosperity. There is a improvement of livelihood, and then the improvement of living conditions of the people, and ASEAN become more and more stronger. But for the next 50 years, in my view, ASEAN need to stand guards against a very fast and very unpredictable challenges that can pose serious damage to ASEAN credibility, particularly hard security issues. How ASEAN manage major power competition, how ASEAN deal with sensitive issues like even human security issue like in Rohingya issues, how ASEAN can continue to make sure that the benefit of ASEAN integrations, be it community building, be it the ASEAN initiative, integration initiative that supposed to narrowing the development gap, must transpire, must produce a result on the ground to the people. Because otherwise, I think the next 50 years, if the people don't see any progress, then the relevance of ASEAN as a people-centered organization will fade away. So I think next 50 years, ASEAN need to be more proactive. ASEAN need to be more cohesive. ASEAN need to have a strong unity, and ASEAN need to be able to withstand major power competition that's happening in the backyard of ASEAN.
That would be a theory, but in reality, whether the ASEAN leader they are willingness to make it happen like what we planned. The previous ASEAN leaders, Lee Kuan Yew or whatever, and that period, they have a willingness to make the ASEAN secure, but don't know as a young ASEAN leader they're willing to, because look at they still call the young ASEAN and old ASEAN and new ASEAN and
Well,
old
it's
ASEAN,
true.
right?
You raise a very important issues. At the moment, it appears that ASEAN lack leadership, frankly, and then naturally speaking, many ASEAN countries look forward to Indonesia to play a leading role in providing that leadership. But the current president of Indonesia are more preoccupied with his own domestic issues, and therefore his foreign policy, ASEAN foreign policy, is a little bit not so forward going. And at the moment, there's no other country that can take that role. And so the first point that you raised, which is correct, is there seems to be lack of leadership from ASEAN point of view. Secondly, I think ASEAN need to readjust its own mode of operandi, particularly ASEAN. Yes, you have a charter, you have a legal personality, and you have everything. You have dispute mechanisms and so on. But what ASEAN is lacking is compliances and enforcement mechanism that ensure that should a case dispute is get out of hand, who's going to enforce it if one party don't play by the rule, for example. And that's why I think going forward, ASEAN need to begin to discuss this issue seriously. This is also linked to how ASEAN making decisions, how ASEAN regard itself as non-interference, how ASEAN's view these notions of consensus. You know, all these. I'm not saying that ASEAN need to change. What I'm saying is that ASEAN need to readopt or recalibrate these principles so as to make sure that ASEAN is able to be relevant, to stay in a driver's seat. Otherwise,
I want to throw more question about the ASEAN, and then we move to another topic. How the ASEAN take advantage from the U.S. and China world trade and the influence with the two superpowers are involved with ASEAN, want to take part of ASEAN, take the interest from ASEAN. How the ASEAN, leader in ASEAN as a country, 620 million, take advantage from those influence.
Well, to give credit to the statement that whenever there's a problem, there's an opportunity. Definitely, there's an opportunity for ASEAN to capitalize on this friction that is currently happening between USA and China. For instance, ASEAN need to be able to prove to the Americans, particularly the American company. You will be seeing more from Mr. Trump. He's going to adopt a stronger position with China with regard to trade regimes and so on and so forth. This is a unique opportunity for ASEAN to let the many American companies who invested in China to think that they can look at ASEAN market and reshifting and redirect those investments to ASEAN country, and Cambodia included. You can if you can do that, you can grab that. If they decide to move from China, ASEAN can offer an alternative for those mega company from America, be it auto industry to anything that America do with China. So this is to me is an opportunity, but we need to be able to prove or show to the American that there is a legal infrastructure and the environment, investment environment and the business environment is conducive to absorb those American investment. So if we could do that, if ASEAN could do that, you can see a lot of spin-off, and this is including Cambodia.
Okay, how do you explain to our audience about the Indo-Pacific strategy, one, and how do you explain the benefit to ASEAN and Cambodia through the One Belt, One Road initiative of China?
Well, you see, first and my view is that first thing that you need to know, you need to understand the longer strategic implication or a deeper strategic implication behind such initiative. In the case of Indo-Pacific strategy, America said that this is designed to uphold world world order.
Right.
That America have been the dominant power. They set the rules, so to speak. You know, the American rule of engagement, including trade and including political security and so on, right? So first, you need to understand that this rule of engagement now get to a point where America start to see that China rise have become a challenge. Well, challenge is maybe a better word than a threat, but you can use the word the threat to the American influence. And so America is very concerned about China rise, and then all of a sudden China change the rule of the game, rule of engagement, including how you do trade, how you do security, how you do economic issues, you know. So, and this would affect small country like Cambodia if we don't know, if we're not aware of this dynamic. Having having deeper awareness in our country will help Cambodia make an informed decision, a right decision to adjust our foreign policy, so as to make sure that we also a peace-loving country, but we definitely don't want the two, America and China, to go at each other's throat. So I think Indo-Pacific, from that point of view, that we need to continue to observe and to see, and then to perhaps think deeper as to what Cambodia individually can do. My point is that if Cambodia think that Indo-Pacific strategy will bring peace and stability to the region, why not? And prosperity, why not? If we analyze it. If we think that America can cause more harm, we should tell the American that they should not do something like this. You know? And that's why you need to do some thinking. Coming to the Belt and Road Initiative, Belt and Road Initiative is not benefiting only Cambodia, but to a lot of countries.
Half of the whole world.
Yes. This is a grand strategy of President Xi Jinping. You know, Belt and Road, Maritime, Silk Roads, and so on. These are a grand Chinese scheme that is designed to uplift the economic prosperity. One of the concern about Belt and Road, as I see it, is that Belt and Road is not like other form of multilateral mechanism like the World Bank or the IMF. We have a very structured, very clear rule and so on. Belt and Road at the moment is still not very clear, frankly speaking. There are people who subscribe to it because they trust China, but there are people who don't trust China. In other words, Belt and Road, under Belt and Road, there is not a fixed rule. There's no one such fixed rule. It leave up to how you negotiate with China individually to get the maximum.
It depends how smart you are.
How smart you are, precisely. And then you have to be very careful also with when using AIIB funding to make sure that you get the best rate. You know, for example, interest rate, when you make sure you can repay your debt if you borrow money from AIIB. So cost benefit in terms of short-term interest versus long-term gain need to be properly analyzed.
Are you not concerned about one day Cambodia might become the Sri Lanka port or the Zimbabwe electric company, something like that, which hand over to China because of that?
Well, as mentioned to you, if we do our homework properly, we have no reason to be concerned, and that's why I think that every step of the way, particularly with regard to mega project,
Right.
we need to assess properly this benefit, short-term benefit versus long-term gain.
Right.
You need to also make sure that it will not be a cost to the next generations of Cambodia,
Right.
like taking too much loan, for example, to a point where we cannot repay it.
Right.
So in other words, you need to know your own situation. When you go to a bank and try to borrow money, you need to ask yourself, can you repay them? And what level of repayment scheme that you can assure yourself
Right.
that you can do that. So in other words, yeah, there's nothing wrong with borrow money.
Do you think Cambodian government today is smart enough to
Well,
play
I-
this role
I have-
to take
I-
advantage from the kind of project?
I have confidence that the current government is mindful of that, and I have quite confident with the Ministry of Finance and Economy, particularly His Excellency On Pon Mirot. I think he's a very intelligent
Right.
individual, and he know how the global
Situation
world
move, right.
move, and
Right.
I'm sure that he will exercise in his best interest and to advise the government and to make an informed decision so as to not to give Cambodian long-term gain
Right.
for the short-term benefit. I keep
Right.
repeating this word because it's very important. You cannot be so attracted to what you see 5 or 10 years, but you should be more
Right.
concerned about what about 30 years, what about
30 years, 100 years.
Oh yeah, if 100 years, if that is okay, that would be great.
Right.
But I think that we need to look at long-term benefit. And another thing that I want to emphasize that economic benefit does not come only at the expense of improving your GDPs and so on and so forth. It have to also factor in the issues related to environmental,
Right, right.
the issues related to social distress,
Right.
the issues that going to impede on moral value.
Moral, yeah.
Yeah, you know, good governance,
Right.
even
Court system, judicial system, or whatever.
yeah, rule of law
Rule of
and all
law.
these things. So all these we need to factor that in,
Right.
because otherwise we will sell ourselves short.
Right.
In my term, in other words, we're a bit short-sighted if we don't take all this
Right.
into consideration.
Okay, maybe one or two questions more that I'm going to stop for you to go to work. Do you see any nation on earth preparing a new war?
No, I don't see anybody want war or prepare any war.
Okay. Do you see among the men's superpowers and the major power, I can count who's the most dangerous man in this world? I can count Donald Trump from US, Vladimir Putin, Russia, Xi Jinping, China, Kim Jong-un, North Korea, and the Moody's from India. Those 5 or 6 men, who are the most dangerous?
Well, you know, I would refrain from making comment about giving them a scorecard in terms of which one is the most dangerous man by naming them, but I would say something like this. I said that leader of that level, leader of America, leader of China, leader of Russia, leader of India, whoever, need not to create any kind of impediment, any kind of obstacle, or cause any kinds of disruptions
Right.
that affecting peace and stability in the region
Right.
for their own benefit alone. They should not do that. So, of course, it is your prerogative to protect your own national interests, but your own national interests have to also factor in the well-being of the neighbor, your other country of the world. You cannot just say, as long as it's good for me, I don't care.
Right.
If it's even bad thing happen to
Right.
other country, you cannot adopt it. So if any leader that think only inward to themselves, it's already a very dangerous.
But you do trust China, President Xi, if the China rising become like superpower,
Well-
and they become the belief of the world, what's going on with that?
Well, I won't say that President Xi classified like that as a bad leader. You know, China know very well that President Xi is a good leader. So, but people who don't like China think that President Xi is not a good leader. But it is for the Chinese people to decide. But until today, I don't think that President Xi Jinping is trying to create any problem for the world. But the only thing that I see the major problem with China is that China need to make themselves very clear on a few things. One of the things that they need to be very clear is that when they say something, please do exactly what they say.
Right.
Don't say something and do something else.
Right.
You know, for example. Don't create more tension in the South China Sea and then start reclaiming land and build militarizations of the. This raised a lot of eyebrow, particularly the claimant state and so on. And another thing about China, I think that China need to pay attention to public opinions. China need to pay attention to local issue. Not only China is very good in dealing with government to government,
Right.
but I think China need to improve its
Communication with the low ground people.
yeah, public diplomacy need to be improved. In other words, and then China have to use its soft power in the right way to help propel their foreign policy. So these are some of these issues China can improve over time.
You mean China have to reclaim their credit?
Yeah, sure. They have to earn respect. In
Earn
other words,
respect.
they have to prove that what they say about share prosperity, share future, share benefit, win-win, it's definitely happening as they say it
Okay.
by action.
All questions I have, and I would like to thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Ambassador Sothirak, for spending your time after lunch. And it's supposed to be like a nap 5 minutes, but you don't spend
Thank you so
5
much
minute nap,
for
but-
talking to me.
But spend time with the Khmer time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.